If you look back at classic high school stereotypes, there was always a strict dividing line. You had the weak, bookish nerds on one side, and the strong but empty-headed, dumb jock on the other. But lately, a new archetype has taken over, the smart jock. Highly intellectual, incredibly fit individuals dominating in both arenas. It raises an interesting question. Did these people just win the genetic lottery, or does physical movement actually build a sharper mind? For a long time, the scientific consensus was incredibly rigid. The rule was that you were born with a fixed number of brain cells. You got what you got, and as you aged, those cells would only slowly die off. The idea that you could actively grow new brain cells as an adult was treated as a joke by the scientific community. It took a severe medical crisis to force researchers to look closer and realize they had the biology completely backwards. In the mid-90s, scientists were desperately searching for ways to slow down Alzheimer's disease. To understand the stakes, Alzheimer's literally shrinks the brain by killing off healthy neurons, leading to severe cognitive decline. Over a 4-year study, researchers identified 2 lifestyle factors that successfully slowed this decline. Both made intuitive sense: doing mentally stimulating activities like reading and maintaining a strong, positive mindset. But the third successful factor completely baffled them. Hitting the gym and getting physical exercise worked just as well as reading a book. This created a massive scientific paradox. Under the old rules, the brain and the body's musculature were entirely separate systems. Moving your legs shouldn't have any physical impact on the structural integrity of your brain. To find out what was happening, a researcher named Karl Kottmann ran an experiment. He put a group of mice on running wheels for up to 14 days, and then he dissected them to look at the physical structures inside their heads. The results were clear. The mice that ran on the wheels had physically thicker brain cortexes and larger hippocampi, proving that regular movement could force the body to manufacture brand new brain tissue. To understand why a morning run forces your brain to expand, we have to reverse engineer our own biology and look at evolutionary history. The neurophysiologist Rodolfo Linhares points to a tiny jellyfish-like animal called a sea squirt to illustrate the brain's true biological purpose. A sea squirt is born with a simple brain and a spinal cord, and it swims through the ocean until it finds a coral rock. Once attached securely, it never moves again, so it literally digests its own brain for extra energy. Humans follow the exact same biological logic. We didn't evolve these massive brains to sit in a chair and solve logic puzzles. We grew them so we could navigate incredibly complex, shifting landscapes and survive as nomadic hunter-gatherers. To your primitive hardware, physical movement acts as an alarm bell. It signals that you are traveling, hunting, or escaping, meaning something high stakes is happening and you need to learn from it. If you are sitting entirely still, your biology assumes you are safe, and the biological drive to absorb new information shuts down. When you start moving, your body triggers a very specific chemical catalyst to enter this learning state, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. As this diagram shows, BDNF acts directly as a biological fertilizer. It floods the cortex and the hippocampus, nourishing existing cells and forcing them to sprout dense, new synaptic branches. Look at this line graph tracking blood levels. A short, high-intensity bout of exercise, lasting between 20 and 40 minutes, spikes the concentration of BDNF in your bloodstream by over 32%. That chemical rush directly accelerates your cognitive capacity. In one German study, subjects who engaged in physical activity immediately before a test were able to learn new vocabulary words 20% faster. Learning is a highly physical process, bottlenecked by BDNF. If you try to study while remaining completely sedentary, you are actively starving your brain of the exact chemistry it requires to build a memory. To see how this works in practice, we can look at the school district in Naperville, Illinois, which restructured its entire curriculum around these biological principles. Educators there built a program called Learning Readiness. Instead of treating gym class as a break, they mandated intense physical education first thing in the morning, deliberately scheduling it right before their hardest academic classes. The physical changes were immediate. They turned 19,000 kids into the fittest student body in the nation, achieving an obesity rate of nearly 0. But the academic metrics were entirely abnormal. When these students took the TIMSS International Standardized Test in 1999, This single local school district scored first in the entire world in science and sixth in math. Most schools cut physical education out of the day to squeeze in more desk time. The Naperville data proves that stripping away physical activity actually suppresses test scores because it removes the biological catalyst kids need to process information. To utilize this system for yourself, you have to follow a specific biological protocol: high-intensity aerobic exercise. Moving heavy weights around the gym for an hour is great for your body, but it doesn't trigger neurogenesis. You have to push your heart rate up to at least 80% of its maximum and hold it there for 20 to 40 minutes. If you want to optimize it further, pick an activity that requires complex motor movements. Sports like tennis or dancing force your brain to constantly calculate spatial navigation, compounding the cognitive demand while your heart is pumping. Lacing up your running shoes won't automatically download a textbook into your head, but it does build the ultimate biological hardware you need to absorb it. If you want to be smarter, you first have to move.